Welcome. For over a decade, the co-directors of the Deaf Cultural Center in Toronto had wanted to create an online sign language dictionary for children. Our camera was there when the website was officially launched.
Oh, it feels great. It feels good. The two of us were discussing before. You know, we've been working on this since 2002. You know, that was when we first had the idea, but the technology wasn't ready. And, you know, there were other things we needed to do. And then, you know, we tested it with the prototype, and now it's really here. So it's great. Joanne Cripps and I were the two co-directors of the Deaf Culture Center, attended a workshop by Sam Supala, who is a deaf ASL linguist in the United States. And at that workshop, he was really educating teachers about graphemes, which is how you look up a sign using their symbols or their letters. That was in a book form, and there were only 300 words at the time, and there was no resource where deaf kids could actually do it at their fingertips for free, and we decided there should be a way to do that. So that's where the idea originated. That was in 2002. We then laid it to rest for a while because we were establishing the Deaf Culture Center, which we did found in 2006. And then right after that, we went to work on actually actualizing the idea. She's saying, welcome to asalphabet.com, the signing dictionary for kids. Now it's going to have voiceover, but you don't see that yet. So I'm going to click on it and go into the site. The target age group for the animated dictionary is JK to grade 3, but we found from testing the site that actually older kids enjoy it as well, and adults love it too, which is wonderful because it means that parents, families, friends of deaf kids, and anybody who wants to learn sign language can also really enjoy it. March 22nd. The day we're launching. Yay. Okay. The two of us are the co-directors of the Deaf Culture Center. Anita is responsible for the development and programming of the center, and I'm responsible for managing the center. And the Deaf Culture Center celebrates deaf life. It's a place where people come and they try to understand about DeVia, Deaf View Image Art, the community. Why we picked this area? Oh, we need to go back a little bit. In 1998, CCSD, the Canadian Cultural Society of the Deaf, asked the two of us to research the feasibility of establishing a Deaf Culture Center. We said, okay. Now, we did not just decide to proceed on our own, the two of us. We had a lot of community involvement. We met someone called Bruce Mao, the designer Bruce Mao, and he asked us a question. Bruce is a world-renowned person related to how to feature your identity as an organization. Bruce asked, you know, in researching the Deaf Culture Center, where do you think it should be? Do you think it should be out where you have lots of like farmland, for example? Or, you know, he asked us to consider that. And we told him we have DeVia artwork. We said the community, that signs, that was very important to us. He said it should be part of the city. People should be able to come upon it naturally. And so we realized we actually felt that was important. And then we met with the architect Sheldon Levitt at Quadrangle Architects. They later became our official architects for designing this place. And Anita had heard of the Distillery District and asked Sheldon about it and said, you know, do you think this is a good place? And he said, yes, you should come right away and see it. It really is going to be quite something. At that time, there wasn't very much here at that time. But we did meet with the owners who were here. We told them our vision. And we said it is not a disability group. This is a group that is going to be celebrating deaf life, the culture of being deaf. And they felt that it was the right place. It really was the right fit. And so we got it. And then it took about 2 years, and then it was ready. In May 2006, we opened. The first floor is 2,000 square feet, and upstairs we actually have another 2,000 square feet. It has a board meeting room, a studio, multimedia studio, and offices, and upstairs. And here on the first floor, it's open to the public. It's a museum and an art gallery. We have special exhibits every 6 months to a year, and so we change them every 6 months to a year. Our next exhibit is called Name Signs. It's going to be quite wonderful because it's going to answer, like, how do we give a name sign and why? Like, how does that happen? It's going to be quite neat. Right now, the special exhibit is Deaf View Photography. Devia, Deaf View Photography. Devia is Deaf View Image Art. It tends to have strong colors, always includes deaf experience. Now, the photographs are all done by deaf individuals, and it incorporates their experience as deaf people. Some are very skilled. We promote deaf artists at the Deaf Center. There are not many people who know about deaf art. And so we feel a responsibility to promote deaf artists. So the photography, some are quite expert, and others not quite as much. Now, deaf children, adults, you know, they know that their work can be featured here and they can grow here. Many of us grew up in deaf school. Some did not. Some were mainstreamed. Right now, you know, 99% of deaf children are mainstreamed. What that means is it's deaf children in hearing schools. So they're, you know, quite isolated as a deaf individual within that hearing context. And so for them, the exposure of language, culture, and community is so important. That is our next job as a Deaf Culture Center, to provide that. School tours do come here. You were mentioning about people mingling and how they connect, how they interact with each other. They feel that this is their home. This represents who they are as a whole person. It's not about accommodating to somebody else's way. It's being able to just be yourself. So this really is the right representation
of star-crossed lovers.
Reverend Bob Rumble has retired from his daily rigors of advocating for the deaf community, but the organizations that bear his name continue his legacy of help and support.
The Bob Rumble Center for the Deaf is located on Bayview Avenue here in Toronto. We're just a little bit north of Lawrence, just a few minutes up the road from Sunnybrook Hospital. How we got here is quite a story, because originally everything that was happening in this building was happening at a much smaller scale down at the old Evangelical Church of the Deaf on 56 Wellesley Street in downtown Toronto. And in the mid-70s, the deaf themselves, the membership, came to the conclusion that what they were doing there related to the work of the church and the Ontario Mission was not enough. And they made that decision to sell off their asset there, look for property up here, and make the decision to build this building to house 75 people, to have services from everywhere from the day you're born to those last days that you have here with us. That something related to Rumble will be able to provide you with the support and services that you need. Now at that time, my family, we were living in Caledon, Ontario, and one of our neighbors was Connie Smythe, who was associated with the Toronto Maple Leaf Gardens and the Maple Leaf Hockey Club for all those years. My dad and Connie became really good friends, and Reverend Rummel asked Mr. Smythe if he wanted to be involved in this project, and Smythe said, you know, let's not talk about it anymore, let's get moving on it. And so they started looking around the city of Toronto for property that would be big enough and in a good location to serve as a community center and a residential space as well for our deaf community. Mr. Smythe and Reverend Rummel just actually walked up to that front door, knocked on it, and said, we're interested in buying your property, and it was quite that simple. It turned out that the resident at the time, Mr. Smythe, had served under him in the Canadian Forces. So at that time he wasn't ready to sell, but within probably a year and a half, he called up Mr. Smythe and my dad and said, well, I'm ready to sell, can you get the money this afternoon? The rest is, the story starts to unfold. The Reverend Robert Rummel was born here in Ontario, in Woodbridge. He's the son of a preacher, same as I am. He was in the early 50s playing football at U of T, was going to seminary at the same time, got picked up by the Argos and the Ottawa Rough Riders at the time. And during those football years, he was also going to seminary and completed his seminary training. And as part of that seminary training, ended up at the Evangelical Church of the Deaf on Wellesley Street, and never left. He retired from football in '56 and started preaching full-time at the Deaf Church downtown. And at that time they were offering some social services, men's hostel, women's hostel, shelter for youth at the time. And throughout the course of those early years, it became very apparent that what they were doing was not enough to meet the social services part of our deaf community. Had great outreach spiritually, great outreach recreationally, but really had a social need that had to be fulfilled, and it just wasn't enough space downtown. So they made the decision to sell off that property at the time, and good friends of my dad, which was Mr. Smythe and Mr. Ballard and Clancy, and Whipper Watson and all those, the old boys club, they got together and they found this piece of property here on Bayview. It was 6 acres of country left in the city. They ended up buying it. By 1979, they had the doors open of what the center is here today on Bayview. Reverend Rummel, my dad, a man of great faith and a man of great vision, and he took the wishes of the church, of the membership at the time, of the people that really needed the services, and he was just able to make all the things happen that the community wanted to happen, this center. And he was able to champion that cause, but always at the will and at the pleasure of the people that he chose to serve. And it was a journey. It was a long journey. We're not quite done yet, but he used his friends and his profile at the time to really raise the awareness of our deaf community, somewhat marginalized, very much overlooked. My dad had great vision, no doubt. He had great vision and great ideas, but most of those all came from conversations with our seniors, conversations with our young people, conversations who were people that were left on the curb of what their needs were. And he was be able to take those needs, those wants, those wishes, and turn them into bricks and mortar, and put the right people in place to make sure that the programs and the services were delivered like no other place in the world. Here at the Bob Rummel Center on Bayview, we provide a wide variety of services for our deaf community, right from infancy right up until your last days here with us. And that would include our early year center. We have a preschool for kids that are 2 to 5. We have adult education for community clients who are deaf, who are looking for English as second language, and even their high school equivalency, and sometimes we'll even help them get their driver's license. So that happens here as well. We have a deaf senior center and a day program for special needs individuals who live in the community. And that's all our community-based programs. Under this roof here on Bayview, we also have 75 people living here, and that's adults with special needs who are semi-independent, who need a little bit of coaxing. And then we have a wing for our special needs adults who need 24 hour, 7-day-a-week care. And then we have our seniors who live here, and those are ones that are independent, as well as those who just need a little bit of help, and they live here under this roof as well. It's very much a community center. It's very much a home for our community. We don't close our doors, and the work of the church and the work of the staff here just does not stop. There's no "we're closed" sign on the building, and a lot of the time is that when no one else has anywhere else to go, they'll come to Rumble, and we're very proud of that. I'm responsible for the program for sign language services, for the high school camps, for the adult immersion camp, and all the sign language classes for all 4 semesters. We also do the baby sign language, the We Hands program. So everything to do about sign language and communicating with the deaf, or if you're going to work with the deaf. My job is to encourage the learning of the sign language here at Bob Rumble. One of the historical challenges that we've always had is how to operate the business here, because it does take dollars to keep the lights on, it does take dollars to pay the staff and to provide services. And historically, we've always been the ones that, oh, you don't have to worry about it, Rumble will do it anyway. So we have raised money over the last 30 years to be able to support what we do. Right now, we are funded through all 3 levels of government, the federal government, provincial, and the municipality, to about 80% of our budget. And the rest of it, we rely upon the goodwill and the good nature of people who believe in what we're doing. And we couldn't do it, could not do it without those people who cared about the people and the kids that we serve, and by showing us they care with their wallets. Across the province, we employ a little over 300 people that provide services for our folks. Depending on which geographic region we're in across the province, it's anywhere from a third to half to over half of our employees are deaf themselves. And we believe that the best way to reach our community is by using people within the community. You and I will never understand what it's like to be deaf, because we're not. As much as we're immersed in the environment and deal with it day to day, I've been around the deaf community since the day I was born, and I will never understand what it's like to be deaf. So the best way to reach our deaf community is with our deaf staff. And I can tell you very